and gentlemen, greetings.
Poverty and illiteracy is a disease, fortunately one which the author has defeated over the course of his lifetime, but the struggle still continues for many. From experience, the author offers hope. He sees only opportunity for growth and development around us, for all human beings globally, but we must be ready and determined for hard work. We must be ready to embrace knowledge to chase those opportunities. Every person has talents and interests in their respected fields. Ultimately, it is hard work and knowledge gained which will raise them up. What follows is a manifesto for the eradication of poverty and illiteracy, and it is from the heart. Together, we must enact a global movement to eliminate poverty and illiteracy. If you feel affected by any of these issues discussed, wherever you may live, please feel free to contact the author as he will listen in confidence. He is always happy to lend an ear and perhaps a friendly word of advice by Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Skype and LinkedIn, mkpaul54, or email at mkpaul@mkpaul.net. He speaks for himself here. His ideas have been forged through experience, a personal story of his little success. The solutions he offers to a democratic country may help answers to some fundamental questions. How can we make our lives better? Or how can we make this a world a better place to live in? This world has lots of God-gifted natural resources and human talent on all 7 continents. Gifts which can easily provide all our needs, from food, clothing, housing to electricity and water. Human life itself is a wondrous gift, perhaps the greatest gift of all. With this in mind, surely there is no cause for such suffering in the world. Hunger, sickness and homelessness, joblessness and poverty, our gifts, resources and other fellow human beings. Our gifts, resources and our fellow human beings offer us strength to overcome adversity. Problems. We cannot deny that many people are suffering in many different ways. Poverty and illiteracy are the main reasons for this. It is due to the complex effects. Poverty and illiteracy are the main reasons for this. It is due to the complex effects of poverty and illiteracy that many other negative impacts arise. One interesting example revolves around crime, rooted in poverty and illiteracy. It is a sad truth that lack of a safe personal and business environment has held the man or woman back on the street, and so too their respective countries. At the most basic level, the reality of dangerous criminals acting with impunity causes physical loss, but it also instills a culture of fear. Businesses are able to operate 24/7 in a few major developed cities, but many other people and places are left behind as inhabitants fear staying out beyond 6 p.m, consequently missing out on time and opportunity. 24/7 activity towards growth and development can only be achieved by fighting the root causes of crime, poverty and illiteracy. How else can we categorise our human struggles? War and strife affect millions the world over. Being ignorant, unaware of other people's plight and basic humanity, we may call this a lack of civilization. Another major, albeit localised issue, declining or aging populations. It is coupled with a lack of family bonding, a loss of faith, and an end to its practice. Again, this contributes to crime. A small but devastating minority are running after easy money through the human trafficking and drugs trade. Indeed, this amounts to some of the most extreme exploitation at all levels, the worst human pollution of society. Global cultural gap sometimes damages people when they trust people from different cultures. Working people are probably only around 30% of total population. Others are children, retired, sick, disabled or housewives. Many families continue to fight a losing battle under this tremendous financial stress. And what is more, This economic suffering also works bottom up, pushing many countries towards bankruptcy. Let us not forget the root causes of our problems: poverty and illiteracy. This fundamental hurdle currently provides a breeding ground for superstitious and hypocritical leaders. The common thread here in analysing humanity's problems is exploitation, which takes on many different forms in many different countries. This exploitation on an industrial scale and often happens in the hand of these charlatans. When we take a step back to make sense of the world in which we live, we might despair. Yet the right way forward can only be to find our motivation in such injustice, to find our motivation to change the world. Many good-looking people become ugly, like one famous painter's two paintings of the same person. One he painted of a good-looking young man, but the other of the most ugly man. But later, the painter found both of the paintings are of the same person. So, human being loses the good look by spoiling them through exploitation and not maintaining disciplined family life. Family life, very important for all, but needs lots of sacrifice. Strong family bonding and faith practice can save people from all evils and can gift the world's best human beings. Nature balance. The author has noticed few changes in humans similar to climate change. Inter-community marriage is happening too much globally. So extreme black or white coloured people are disappearing. Human colour changing to brown. Also, we can easily notice that many good-looking people and many rich people's children are generally foolish and are easy to exploit. This is also probably nature's balance. The rich are becoming poor and the poor are becoming rich. We often talk about racism and prejudice against minorities, but the person who actively works towards a better future doesn't have to occupy their mind with this. It is the inactive, the lazy who complain rather than change their circumstances who will forever dwell in a state of helplessness. To shun hard work is to condemn oneself to victimhood. We all have power within ourselves, so if we convert to our own power into hard work, we can overcome racism and prejudice. We can rise above it. There are numerous hopeful success stories amongst minorities, whether they identify as a distinct race or ethnicity, achieving their goals and even doing so. Whether they identify as a distinct race or ethnicity, achieving their goals and even doing so much more effectively than majorities in many countries. We should look to these groups for inspiration. They are unstoppable. Think of the Western diverse community. White Western people very often find themselves falling behind. The key message here is that aspiration and hard work can lead us all towards self-made success and ultimately an end to illiteracy and poverty. It is illuminating to contemplate who has helped us more in our lifetime and at times of need. The answer is very often diverse when people come from communities other than our own. To have hope and successful mindset, we must embrace the humanity we share with global citizens. Dwelling on the faults of others perceive of us, our victimhood is unhelpful, and more than that, this will be our downfall. Reach out to your fellow humans, wherever they may be born, and set your mind to changing your own world. If your own community is set in its ways, prone to infighting, do not invest your time and energy there.
Women. Women can play a crucial part in humanity's struggle to end poverty and illiteracy. Women and men are equal and each need each other. So often dismissed, the role women play is fundamental. It almost goes without saying that the protection of women from all exploitation, especially at the young age, is necessary precondition to humanity's success. If we can save our women from exploitation in their formative youth, up to the age of 25 and offer training and education in the field of their choice, the world will rapidly become a better place. Empowered women will harness their own potential, engage in the same hard work we must all embrace, and themselves contribute to the end of poverty and illiteracy. It cannot be emphasised enough that women's youth before the age of 25 is pivotal to their success. Education at this age will stay with them for life, the good and the bad. This starts with protecting our youth from evil and exploitation, as mentioned. For instance, restricting alcohol and club culture for under 25s. This is our moral civil duty. Another form of exploitation we must combat revolves around teenage promiscuity. Girls are rarely in control. Living together with multiple men before marriage sadly often prevents them from enjoying a family life later on. Early teenage pregnancies happen far too often in the world over. Many of you are parents. Would you like your teenage daughters to fall pregnant, or worse, get involved in the sex trade or porn? These are risks many girls face at a vulnerable age. Whether we like it or not, this is happening in many places, more than we dare to imagine. Yet these are risks which can be averted with stronger parental guidance and boundary setting. Exploitation breeds exploitation. Women who suffer at the hands of self-serving men seeking sex or even money feed into a generation of cycle of acceptance. Their children and their children's children, including outsiders, too often find themselves in the same situation decades later. The culture struggle is real when you consider a power of a lifetime and a family history of exploitation. We have to forge the family values we believe in. We must help our children grow with the necessary dedication and hard work. Among newborn babies, there are fewer girls than boys. In some countries, this imbalance is more pronounced. In India, for instance, it was found in 2012 that those 110 males were born to every 100 females. A disaster waits in an era of declining fertility and sex discrimination technologies. Declining birth rates also threaten the family structure. Children are quite literally the lifeblood of our future society. Women should take initiative by engaging them to connect scientific scholars with global natural resources through voting them to power, and then each woman should produce 4 to 5 children globally. It seems that only older generation understand how important children are for this planet. The necessary space in which terms land area certainly exists. Many countries have the resources to support a higher population with efficient use. Women should take the lead in connecting scientific scholars with global natural resources through their vote. FACTE: food, accommodation, clothing, treatment and education. In spite of a great wealth of natural resources and human talents, people's basic needs are not being provided for. Here, the author introduces FACTE: food, accommodation, clothing, treatment and education. In combating illiteracy and poverty and addressing their effects, such as crime and exploitation of women, FACTE represents the practical, material necessities. This is what we need to focus on in policy terms. Human beings are God's greatest creation. We have been bestowed with the gift of life, yet only one. Every life is important. Every human being must be respected, and this includes the unskilled and important others, irrespective of their background. Following from this, every life must contribute something to others and leave a positive legacy. FACTE creation is not only desirable but achievable. We have vast, God-gifted natural resource, wealth and human talent by which we can produce food, accommodation, clothing, treatment and education for all. In carrying out this mission, each can be creative, individually as a private citizen and in their own field of interest. But in government position that are elected or selected and spend taxpayers' money must be the right people for the right time and place. By this, the author means that this must be experts in scientific fields. By this, the author means they must be experts in scientific fields and able to make rational decisions informed by data. It is crime to spend well-respected working class people's taxpayers' money by politicians without any productivity or FACTE creativity. It is a crime to spend well-respected working class people's tax money by the politicians without any productivity or FACTE creativity. Many ordinary people have accomplished extraordinary achievements. The first Nobel laureate of India, Rabindranath Tagore, did not have any university degree. Any person may be talented, but not all are suited to government position. Those who are not should use in their talents, following their areas of interest for other accomplishments. In this way, every human being is respected and valued. The author mentions the need for scientific expertise in government. Let us consider how much life is dependent on science. We cannot imagine our lives, even our existence, without the help of science. Our food, medicine and treatments, clothing, housing, transportations, telecommunications, machines, to name a few, are all implemental in new employment creation. Indeed, in FACTE creation, food, accommodation, clothing, treatment and education, FACTE is born out of the innovations of science. Globally, the contribution of science scholars into our lives is colossal. Humanity cannot survive without this contribution. Without other areas of expertise, we can get by, if not still thrive. We have very few God-gifted scientific scholars in each country when compared to the general population. Their importance in FACTE creation dictates that we must focus on these scholars in greater degree in the media, more than our politicians and entertainers. They are critical to our success and human beings in a way that politicians and entertainers who we watch 24/7 are not. People should know who the scholars are. Scientific scholars are the foundation of human life, but no one sees or remembers this foundation. Just as a building stands on its foundations, so too does human society, scientific foundations. Mentions of scientific scholars in politics and media are few and far in between. We need to instill a culture of engineering, technological and medical science, professionalism in our centres of political power. This means more professionals from those fields. The greatest nations on earth are ruled by democratic process. In democratic countries, two sets of administration rules apply. One is set by the elected representatives, and the other is the selected people. These include highly qualified civil or public service professionals. The selected government civil service professionals are a great asset for all countries. For instance, ambassadors and the secretaries. Their selection process is extremely tough and based entirely on merit. The elected people, on the other hand, include the head of state, who are elected through our vote in democratic process. The real power stays with the elected people because they have the mandate of the people. The police, military, and the entire administration, including finance and all decision-making on policy execution, follow their lead. The very growth and development of the world is, therefore, totally reliant on democratically elected leaders. From the history of the last 2,500 years of democratic rules in 123 countries, we learn that those who are great speakers or orators, and very often the best entertainers, get elected in democracies. Celebrities, sportspersons, singers, actors, good-looking men, women, they have too often been illiterate or with little education, or otherwise educated in sociology, history, philosophy, law, political science. Why we call that science, we don't know. Democratic leaders too often come from a general education group or from a no education group. They have been acting as messengers, middlemen, brokers in all professional areas when in power. Whenever there is a natural disaster in a country, the trend is for the political leader to appear on television, dressed somberly to deliver an empty speech, and that is all. They have no skill other than their own to solve their pressing issues. Their job is merely to produce a rhetoric and act out in their leadership symbolically. Scientific knowledge is so important for our world, yet almost none of our political leaders have a science background. They manage their time in power through trickery, polite tricks. That is, as messengers, middlemen, brokers, yet without hard understanding of scientific solutions by which we can overcome poverty and illiteracy. What do global citizens from 123 democratic nations get out of this situation? Their votes are totally wasted. In fact, they have been for the last 2,500 years. In summary, over 2,500 years, elected representatives' job has been talk and sign. No tangible output and no creativity of their own. Many of them don't know anything specific, so don't have anything other than talk and sign. Probably many can't get any employment other than becoming elected representative up to president or prime minister.
The power of scientific solutions to illiteracy and poverty. Some pivotal technologies of our time include renewables such as geothermal energy and forms of waste recycling which produce energy. These technologies are helping us combat global warming. Other technological solutions help fight cybercrime or even, astoundingly, space junk. In case of, for example, SpaceX technology, the ignorant political elite have little understanding of some of the most crucial scientific discoveries, technologies in all human history. Robotics, air taxi, the proposed Hyperloop train, nuclear weapons, artificial intelligence, and a multitude of other cutting-edge technologies. Each contributes to reducing global catastrophic risk. This is reducing the risk from disasters, natural or otherwise. On all global platforms of power and those in countries, the main speakers are democratic, head of states and ministers with no knowledge of how these technological problems and the solutions manifest. Voters continue to justify this situation. Inept politicians are not the only culprits in the perpetration of unqualified leadership, although they are most directly, of course. The media are in cahoots, dedicating millions of television hours to politicians that eulogise their policies in every area ranging from cybercrime to climate change. All the time, entirely ignorant of these topics. Moreover, their technological solutions. Because politicians are favoured and given airtime, the media overall falls into a trap of presenting their agenda and policies, whilst at the same time neglecting the important issues. These are how we might create FACTE for all: food, accommodation, clothing, treatment and education. The media fail us by focusing on the issues relevant and understood by the messengers, middlemen and brokers, so nothing of the consequences at all. The role of media is so important, yet the media never moves beyond the topics that they currently discuss on a 24/7 basis, namely, who said what, is there any creativity in this topic, is there any gain in any way of human beings. Sometimes, according to the media themselves, they ask tough questions, but what are those tough questions? Is there any creativity in those tough questions? Or are they fooling themselves and the world by saying this? Who said what should be discussed only in the court. Media personnel become very vocal with their experience but drain the energy for nothing. Media is acting like an angry mob of hooligans. Our demand must be fulfilled. What is your demand? That we don't know, but it must be fulfilled. Media spends millions of hours in televisions talking about who said what, but this lacks creativity and fails to provide for the needs of people. How long will this continue? Media is 100% general talk all the time, like everyone understands as totally unproductive. The media is probably supported by political parties at the cost of the taxpayer. This means that the real professionals in those subjects have no access to the television to discuss real problems and solutions knowledgeably. Without media backing or backing of democratic parties, their knowledge is lost in political games. Politicians and the media are in the show business. Theatre is everything in politics. FACTE creation for an end to illiteracy and poverty must take centre stage in new politics. This must be politics in which voters refuse to fool themselves and force change. Voters should not be any more voting for a slogan without any FACTE creation. Similar to this, we don't want East, West, North, South, up, down America. We want United States of America. When they go low, we go high. Voters must reject these cheap slogans
in the future and delete these unproductive ex-politician names globally. Political rallies are sites of clear exploitation by self-serving politicians. Those who may as well be actors are key decision makers. Rallies are often dominated by youth who blindly follow crowd politics, baseless, sensationalist reasoning. Ask attendees of the kind of political rallies seen in the support of all global heads of state candidates, for instance, why they are there and why they join in with the ritualistic chants. They will often be lost for words, similar to, "Our demand must be fulfilled." What is your demand? That we don't know, but it must be fulfilled. They are being exploited by politicians and their campaign managers. Such sensationalism suppresses the rightful work of true leaders to provide food, accommodation, clothing, treatment and education, and bring an end to the exploitation and suffering of illiteracy and poverty. Not only do our actors turned politicians distract from necessary work to solve the world's problems, and from the need for the experts to take up this challenge, but the financial cost is astronomical. Presidents, prime ministers and other senior members of elected governments blow millions on travel, entertainment, personal staff, offices and multiple homes. Money which was hard earned by the taxpayer and for which they receive no return in terms of FACTA. The occasional well-written, well-timed speech to keep voters happy, and forever slave to a corrupt system. The voters are real obstacles to global growth and development. They are not voting for the right people. Those who create solutions, trillions of dollars of taxpayers' money lost in the political system itself. Voters never see the return. Incompetent politicians in power have no accountability. Contemporary political leaders have been known to double their country's borrowing over the course of a term in the office. Invariably, upon retirement from the politics, they channel their efforts further towards their own ends, securing their political legacy, earning money as paid speakers, starting foundations to create diversion from their vast, ill-gotten personal wealth. They may write a book, perhaps a memoir of the years spent fooling the public and growing fat off their constitutes, hard work and tax dollars, or work their contracts, the landmarks or public projects carry their name. Establish their personal names in all landmark places and projects like statues, roads, bridges, airports, stations. Perhaps the greatest insult to the exploited voters and absent experts, which the politicians have displaced in politics, is in the name of the healthcare, centres of science and learning, and of the real FACTA creation, full of highly qualified individuals, providing life-saving treatment and cutting-edge technologies, are named after corrupt politicians. Politicians guilty of theft from voters. Politicians, when elected, take control of the defence, administration, finance, policy, and the international affairs. They hold full power to enact their own agenda as they see fit. Voters have no control as long as they are in power. During their tenure, they take advantage because they understand very well they will not hold on the power forever. Voters must understand that to see an end to our problems, an end to illiteracy and poverty, they must vote for people who can create FACTA, not those who can only offer good lip service or empty speeches. There are many political parties in every democratic country, and all of them, directly or indirectly, are supported by working class taxpayers' money. Working class family people are respected around the world, so politicians spend their tax money in an unproductive way. Politicians take many wrong decisions by invading other countries. Citizens and military personnel suffer the consequences, many ending up permanently disabled, if not dead. When the deaths occur, out come the black ties and empty speeches, just as following natural disasters. At one time, the sun never set over the British Empire, but now the empire is no longer and its governors have returned to Britain. Voters must delete these self-serving politician names from history. Politicians and media personalities are too quick to criticise one another, but rarely reflect on their own inadequacies. What's more, politicians and media personalities are even quicker to criticise highly accomplished experts. Political parties in each country attract famous celebrities to join their party so that they may influence voters on behalf of politicians. Many political leaders introduce their children and relatives to politics. One might be forgiven for thinking that democratic positions of the power are hereditary. Decision-making is often restricted to the party leadership in one or two parties within each country. Party politics, in which the whip has control over the members, means that the power is even further confined to the upper echelons of the political class, more than the political elite. In 2016, the then Indian president said, "It is the beauty of democracy that I become the president of India. I was never a good student, just mediocre." So the beauty of democracy should be applicable to all Indians. Imagine every year in India how many people commit suicide because of extreme poverty. This is partly the result of the extortionate cost of the Indian president's expenses and particularly the presidential palace. This money could be put towards FACT creation and save lives, both by providing life's necessities and generating sense of optimism in a place of despair. Mahatma Gandhi got it right when he called for the demolition of the huge presidential palace in New Delhi and instead build housing for the needy. On numerous occasions, I have heard incompetent politicians memorise some scientific terms or abbreviations and use them as if au fait with the concepts. This is pretense. One example involved a top politician in US power now stating, "I had some technical training, so I am now an engineer," as if his basic general degree sufficed to make this claim. Any engineering bachelors require a minimum of 16 years study. This politician misled, as many others continue to do similar and wrongly made the claim. Outside of politics, all over the world, a lawyer cannot practice as a medical doctor and vice versa, but in politics, all politicians can perform in all professions, many times without having any profession of their own. Voters are careful in all issues related to their life, but not at all careful about their votes in empowering the right person in the election. Many incompetent politicians sometimes lecture the accomplished scientists in the course of their career, their confidence and arrogance boosted by their democratic mandate. Again, voters are exploited. They are taken for fools by the disingenuous politicians and unwittingly empower those who cheat people through their faith. At its most dangerous, perhaps, its probable political influence behind the noble committees some decisions. The attendance of the upper echelons of political power at the global summits is of course a luxury affair at the cost of the taxpayer. They regularly attend to present a scientific agenda, not only without the technical understanding, but worse, without science professionals present to assist. The poor and illiterate suffer this financial drain. Nepotism is rife in politics and big business related to political networks. Power is kept in the family. This is as true in the West as it is in the rest of the world. Elected people sometimes decide on the recipients of the highest civilian awards without any knowledge of that subject. This comes about as many ministers are fundamentally illiterate people who could not get a job any other way. Politicians always use an excuse that they act on various issues based on public demand, but not the reality. Politicians' high life fully based on taxpayers' money. People in democratic countries sooner rather than later must understand the damage they caused through voting for the unqualified showmen and women. Voting for them to lead into an increasingly techno-rational world requires true expertise. Voters must vote for FACTA, and this requires voting for knowledge, not charisma. Only then this will tackle poverty, illiteracy, which plagues so many ways. As a part of FACTA, educating must involving instilling of a working knowledge of whose country best scientific, God-given minds are. Thus voters also have responsibility to educate themselves. Only once these experts are properly integrated into governments, which positions of power, can we really say we are using our human talents and our resources to our advantage. Only then we will be enacting a working democracy in which illiteracy and poverty giving rise to forms of exploitation, crime and violence are addressed. Only then will FACTE, creation, food, accommodation, clothing, treatment and education take centre stage. This is long overdue.
Voters can do that by creating a single political party, a global government, the Global Democratic Party, GDP. This should be formed in all democratic countries, in countries where engineering and medical science professionals are the most numerous. They would have the opportunity to put themselves forward for an election in another territory to help balance expertise geographically. In parallel, selected civil servants would be required to support all elected engineering and medical science professionals. Globally, scientists, lawyers and accountants probably can study 50% of their main subjects and 25% and 25% of other two subjects to save them from professional exploitations. It has been observed that many R&D innovations globally are copied off others and making trillions of dollars easily in the absence of scientific professionals in democratic power. We need only scientists as elected. Accountants and lawyers are selected to rule this world democratically. By elected and selected procedures, if this governing body is achieved, it is the author's firm belief that all human beings will have their basic needs covered. Human rights implementation, social security payment and jail terms, for instance, would all be science-based decisions. If we elect only scientific scholars in all democratic countries, we could achieve so much more. The Parliament, Senate or Congress could be converted to a research and development R&D centre, where all the meeting room walls would display the relative strengths and weaknesses of each respective country to allow for the proper allocation of resources. Global cooperation between all GDP parties globally in all fields would aid this process. This would be information sharing on a grand scale to combat global problems. It cannot be emphasised enough. Voters must take into account who really is fit to govern, and specific needs will be addressed by the experts from those different fields. We may no longer waste our votes in a way which we would never waste our hard-earned money. Voters should not allow bureaucracy, diplomacy or politics in democracy. If we hand over democratic power to a GDP made up of experts, we will see the following benefits. All entails strong models of PPP, public-private partnerships, for sustainable growth. Accelerated development of new technologies. Particularly important examples include renewables, geothermal energy production, waste recycling and other global warming related solutions. Furthermore, we may see an improvement of technologies related to combating cybercrime, space cargo and exploration, robotics, air taxi, hyperloop trains, nuclear weapons, artificial intelligence, reducing the impact of natural disasters, for instance, by constructing earthquake-proof buildings. Info screens in the centres of government to provide real-time data and assess needs. The exploitation of untapped natural resources. All countries will become tax-free. Global growth and development. Easier implementation of projects to create employment and promote safety. A global reduction in crime. Collaborations between selected civil servants to manage all local and international issues. The views expressed and explained in brief in this video are set out in more detail in the author's book, Democracy and Global Social Issues. This is a must-read for every responsible voter. Democracy and Global Social Issues is also available as a PDF file. Email at mkpaul.net. It is available in both Hindi and English. It is the author's hope that this book may reach the entire world in the future as it is published in more languages. Let us hope it contributes in some small way to making the world a better place. The author is a person who focuses on human needs, on reducing illiteracy and poverty, on employment and skill creation. This is the author's passion, the basis of his mission. For the last 39 years, the author has tried to create employment and skills for many great people. For the last 39 years, the author has tried to create employment and skills for a great many people. His engineering and construction firm has been a small success, in his own estimation, because of the contribution it has made to bettering employees' lives. During this long period, he has worked with highly qualified engineering and science professionals, rarely the generalist with little to offer. He is passionate about the engineering and construction business, and he has enjoyed working with some of the best engineering professionals over the last 39 years. He has consequently learnt a great deal from them. At the same time, he has upheld 3 personal values in particular: karmic, as in hard work; dharmic, as in prayer; and parabaric, as in a family person. Focusing on these core beliefs, he does not dwell on the political rhetoric of the unqualified political elite. He simply does not see the benefit, for the combined creative minds have generally failed to create FACTE and provide for our basic needs. This has gone on for approximately 2,500 years, currently in 123 democratic countries. Enough is enough. Engineers are used to studying long hours in student life. In the workplace, their work ethic also carried through in his experience. They are able to work long hours. Those who didn't study a hard science or engineering degree tend to sometimes waste away in the workplace. During the author's student life, he himself was a culprit of inefficient use of time. And for what he witnessed of those students, Fields was exemplary. The author has been really lucky to have opportunities to work with engineers during his own career. Most of the world never gets such opportunities to understand the nature of real professionals' work, in engineering and medicine particularly. Furthermore, they never get to understand the pioneering concept and inventions leading humanity forwards, nor those scientific scholars who make it all possible. We are all blinded to their contribution by the entertainers, politicians, and by the media. The author's parents inspired him to write this book, Democracy and Global Social Issues. The author believes that whenever a person, country, or the world experiences great suffering and injustice, God provides solution and comfort. This book is the solution for upgrading human life globally by connecting and empowering scientific scholars with the natural resources of all countries. The author's father was a victim of an election in 1986. By victim, I mean he was asked forcefully to support a political party. His life was threatened. He fled the area during the election and returned afterwards. Sadly, due to the upheaval at the time he was spent in hiding, he was unable to care for his health. The author's father contracted food poisoning during this period and died very quickly. Some years after the bereavement, the author's mother also passed away due to the unreliable commitment of someone close to the family. She never breathed a word of the actions of the relative which led her to death. So our unreliable commitment sometimes may cause up to the death of someone. This is the lesson she left for the world. The author strongly believes that if we all create a global democratic party, GDP, in all democratic countries and vote engineering and science scholars into power and lead the GDP, then we will all lead happier and healthier lives. Through this video and through the author's book, he seeks to lay the foundations for this GDP. The author urges people to see the potential for growth and development, potential for a better life. The author wants us all to join together to make this happen. to create the GDB party. Now is the time to kickstart the Global Democratic Party, to see what it can do for us, what they, the experts, can do for us. The author is open for debate. Get in touch and let's push forward the real issues.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This video is made based on my book, Democracy and Global Social Issues. In this book, I have explained how we can make human life better globally and make this world a better living place for all. Human life totally depends on natural resources. To explore huge natural resources, I believe we have to engage and empower our scientific scholars with our natural resources through vote in all democratic countries. Only scientific scholars know, understand, and can explore natural resources globally, which can eliminate poverty and illiteracy for creating ultimate better world for all. For the past approximately 2500 years, in all democratic countries, natural resources have been handled in democratic power by the people of different background with no scientific skill. I believe that is the reason we have poverty, illiteracy, and many other problems globally. And a world that could not develop to its potential despite its huge God-gifted natural resources all over the world. I hope this video, based on the book Democracy and Global Social Issues, can help all of us understand these very important global issues. I have discussed in this democracy book our problems globally and the possible solutions to solve the global problems that we all face. Also, I believe that a stable family life and continued attachment with everyone's own faith can play a very important role in our growth and development. This can protect us from evil and makes us grow as a better human being. Of course, to have stable family life, we need lots of sacrifice from everyone in the family. We have only one life and none of us can afford to spoil our only one life. We all have God-gifted huge talent in different fields. That is the reason many ordinary people accomplished extraordinary performances in their life. So, with our determination for hard work to make every life successful, we must be attached with our family and faith to have maximum growth and keep us protected from evils. Hope you have liked this video, and if so, please translate this video and the book Democracy and Global Social Issues in all languages and share with your all known people. With your cooperation, I want to take this challenge as global movement to eliminate poverty and illiteracy from this planet forever. Please feel free to contact me anytime at mkpaul@mkpaul.net. Thank you for watching this video and reading this book. I, mkpaul, author, Democracy and Global Social Issues.